So, Dennis, can you tell me a little bit about your harmonica history, how you came to the harmonica?
Well, I started playing harmonica. I got a gift from a family friend. And I was always into music, though. Little guitar in high school, trumpet in grade school. Always, sang, when I was by myself. But I was always into music, so it wasn't a question about being into music or not. I couldn't find the right thing for me. And when I got my first harmonica, coincidentally, in exchange for the harmonica, I gave a gift to this friend who requested Harp Attack, which had James Cotton, Junior Wells, Billy Branch, and Carrie Bell. And here I am, getting a harmonica. I'm giving this album with all these harmonica players on it. I said, well, the least you can do is let me hear the record. And then, boom, that was it. I was always in love with music, all kinds of music. At that time, mostly rock and rock and roll stuff. But the harmonica just felt natural to me. Not the first day. The first day was, difficult because then you realize it's not as easy as it looks. Like everybody's first day. Oh, you just blow into it and boom, the magic happens. But after a couple months, and I realized I would have to dedicate some work to it. I almost gave it up, but I decided to stick with it, and that was it. Really, since that first record that I heard, I was buying blues and jazz records, literally every weekend for years and years, and I just kind of stuck with it, and I loved it. When I first heard Little Walter, it was an alternate take of "Baby Please Don't Go" from Muddy Waters, and an alternate take of "Off the Wall." It was on some chess compilation. And I was like, wow, that's harmonica. That was amazing. And I just, kind of chased after that sound and that style from the beginning,
Have you always tongue blocked? Is that something that's come later on? And do you teach tongue blocking from the start?
I did not start as a tongue blocking player. Of course, I think, as is the case with most people for the past 50 or 60 years, who aren't handed down the instrument from somebody, a friend or family who already knows how to play. I did not start as a tongue blocker. And I heard about it a little bit within the first year of playing. And I was able to mimic a lot of the sounds and copy a lot of the licks and riffs that I heard, but it didn't really sound the way that these guys did. And then there was a local harmonica player who told me, oh, you got to tongue block, you got to do this. And I just kind of started experimenting with it. I didn't really have any teachers who were showing me stuff. I tried to take a couple lessons from people, but either, I was more advanced than what they were trying to show me, or they just weren't teachers. So I kind of, I spent a good portion of those years just kind of locked up by myself and listening to records and learning stuff, note for note and experimenting. I started tongue blocking about a year and a half into playing, and with new students, because I've been teaching almost as long as I've been playing. I started giving lessons about a year and a half into playing, and when I get new students, I will often start them tongue blocking on the first lesson in the first day, and a good portion of the time, if they're brand new, I'll have them tongue blocking and bending in the first lesson. It's a matter of just really understanding how to do the technique correctly and get comfortable with it. Tongue blocking, I think, is so important to this instrument, regardless of whether you're playing blues or not. It's just an important technique on the harmonica, where if you're not tongue blocking, you're missing on 80 to 90% of the techniques and things that you can do on the instrument if you're not doing it. So just from a technique standpoint and the musical standpoint, you want to know how to do that. And I do primarily tongue block, about 99% of the time.
When would you not tongue block?
Good question. When would I not tongue block? If I'm bending the 10 blow, sometimes I won't tongue block. Sometimes on hole 1, I won't tongue block, depending. Sometimes I'll tongue switch and block to the right. Sometimes I will block to the left on hole 1, and my tongue is on the corner, the side of the comb, the bottom of the comb. And sometimes I will pucker, depending on what I'm doing, where I'm going, what kind of effect I'm going for.
Sure.
Or if there's some kind of triplet tonguing articulation, you know, like a deedly deedly do kind of thing, which you can only do if you're not tongue blocking. But that's really the only thing you can't do if you're tongue blocking.
Do you overblow tongue blocked?
I do.
Yeah.
I do overblow tongue block. I do overdraw tongue block. I don't use them. I mean, do I overblow and overdraw? I do. However, I'm kind of I don't know. Some people call me a rebel. Most people think of me, at least earlier on, as a traditional blues harmonica player, and I love that stuff. That's what I learned. It's still one of my biggest loves musically, and what I love to play. But from a traditional blues harmonica standpoint, that's not all I do, and I incorporate overblows into what I do, and I do them tongue blocked. And I was probably using more overblows and overdraws years ago because I really, if I want the notes, I want to be able to play them. Sometimes those notes are wanted or needed musically or melodically. But I also, regardless of the instrument you're playing or the type of music you're playing, I am very much not into it. It's a turnoff for me to do things just to do them. So I use the notes when I feel like I want to play the notes. But if I don't, I don't use them.
Yeah, serve the music.
There's just another type of bend to me. I mean, if I want to bend for a specific note, you get it, but you don't want to just kind of hit it randomly just to play chromatically.
The new album you have out, Ready or Not, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, the new record. I've been writing a lot the past couple of years, and this is my first all-original record, and I just felt like it was time to do that. And I've been gearing myself more towards original material the past number of years. My record before this, Rockin' All Day, I really liked that record a lot, but I wasn't focused on original material, and I kind of just gathered material in a more timely fashion than I wanted to. So with this record, I was going through, books of songs I've been writing for the past number of years, and stylistically, I want to go for something a little different, a little more, I don't want to say contemporary, because I hate traditional and contemporary and old school and those labels, because to me, they don't really mean much. But I wanted something, I guess, a little more of a rockin' edge to it. I am just as much into early rock and roll as I am Chicago blues and jump blues. And to me, there's a big middle ground where they all meet, especially the jump blues and the early rock and roll. You look at Fats Domino and Little Richard. I mean, to some people, that's rock and roll. To other people, that's blues. It's really both. They just started calling it rock and roll depending on the type of groove and the artist and how it was marketed.
Yeah.
So, and it's also a little bit about the attitude and how it's played. But I love that, all that stuff from the late 40s into the late 50s. I mean, to me, that's really some of my favorite music. And, so I want original material, but I want it kind of in that feel of the different types of roots, rhythm and blues, stuff that I like from that era. And when I was working on the material and getting demos together for the band to work on, Doug Deming and the band, they don't live near me, they live in Florida. So I was making my own demos on the computer and working out the arrangements and vocal melodies. I decided to give it a try with the help of some close friends, and or with the support, I should say, of some close friends, because I've been singing to myself for the past 25 years, or the past 40-some odd years. So I just figured I'd give it a go, because as I was working out the songs, I was able to pull some of it off more than I expected myself to be able to. So I just kind of figured it was time to do it, whether I was ready or not.
Some of the tracks I've really enjoyed of yours have been the ones where you've been playing low-tuned harmonicas. Can you talk a little bit about why you might choose to use those and which songs it suits and your reasons for using them?
All right. Well, with low-tuned harmonicas, or, I could almost tailor this question to positions as well, because, honestly, I kind of feel the same answer. Why would I choose a low-tuned harmonica? Really just because I want to, because I feel like approaching it from that perspective. I love the low tune harmonicas just because I've always gravitated towards a lower register sound. That those sounds appeal to me more. Like I love baritone sax more than say alto or soprano. Although there's some alto or soprano players that I love, but the sound of the baritone and the lower end of the tenor, I just love that sound. So when I started playing harmonica, and I remember I got a low F or some other kind of, I think it was a low C, one of those Sonny Boy, the 364 Marine bands, the 12 or 14 holers. I was like, how come they don't make these with 10 holes? So years ago, in the 90s, pre-Thunderbird harmonicas, pre any other company making low-tuned 10-hole diatonic harmonicas, I would get them custom made because I just wanted that sound and I wanted to hold it in my hand and amplify it and to be able to cup it like a regular 10-hole diatonic harmonica. So I Joe Falisco and Richard Slade making me, sets of low-tuned harmonicas in all different keys before really, many people were making them. Hohner was making them in certain keys with very limited availability, and they were difficult to get. And I didn't even know about it back then, to be honest with you. But it's just the sound that I heard in my head, and it's just the sound that I've been going after. I just love that low register sound. And amplified harmonica in general has a particular sound, and when I brought it down a little bit in the register, it just kind of matched what I always heard in my head for some reason. Not that you want to be in my head and hear those things, but that's one of the pleasant things that goes on in my head.
Dangerous place to be, Dennis Gruenling's head.
Yes.
Can I ask you a little bit about your practice regime? Are you quite a methodical practicer?
No, but I do recommend being methodical.
Do what I say, not what I do.
Please don't follow in my footsteps. I wouldn't wish this on anybody. No, well, I'm methodical conceptually, meaning, you want to approach different types of practice in your practice routine. But I'm not methodical in how often I do it, how long I do it. You don't want to have practice routines that are too long, but you want to set goals. You want to have a clear idea of what you're working on and make sure you're working on some new stuff. Make sure that you have some time where you can just jam and play and get comfortable on the instrument, and make sure a good portion of your practice time is spent just listening and not playing and developing your ear. That's one of the biggest things I think that separates the okay, sort of good players from the really good players, is that they listen more.
Sure. And what would your tips for beginners be?
First and foremost, be patient and don't play too hard. Breath control is probably the most important thing. Take your time to learn the techniques right. Once you have the techniques right, everything else falls into place after that and becomes a lot easier and a lot more rewarding.